Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic and Movie Show. My name is Deshaun and today I am here to rank the Disney Plus Star Wars project/shows. Now, all disclosure, I decided to make this video because Andor is starting to get to the end of its run. It only has about, after next week, I believe it has 3 episodes left. It's starting to get to the tail end and we already know how they like to do their thing. So, I decided today would be a really good day to kind of rank it, especially since the next Star Wars show/project isn't going to be coming out for a while after Andor. So, and I kind of feel like I already know where I would rank Andor in this list of Star Wars things. So, starting off at number 5, I believe it would probably be The Book of Boba Fett. Now, all disclosure, I had more fun with that show than most people did. Most people thought it was really bad. Personally, I did have fun with it, but I cannot deny that Robert Rodriguez did a very poor job with this. It was probably, he directed some of the worst episodes of the show, were all directed by him, except for the finale, ironically. And, you know, all that goodwill I had from him directing that one episode of The Mandalorian Season 2 kind of went down the drain, because it was like, damn, like, maybe you shouldn't have allowed him to be the head of this entire thing. The questionable flashback sequences, which I was on board with them at first. Sorry, still dealing with stuff. I was on board with those flashbacks at first, but over time, they did start to become waning on me. And it started to feel like you could have just made this show, the episodes a little longer, and put all those flashbacks into one episode, so then we could spend the rest of the show focusing on the future, focusing on the now, focusing on the gangster stuff. And that was also a bit disappointing, that the gangster stuff was there, but it wasn't played up as much as you would have liked. I really thought they were going to make this like really intense, like a Star Wars version of a mob movie, but they really didn't do that. Like, they had those kind of things in it, but they didn't go far enough. Also, they tried to make Boba Fett more like, they tried to make Boba Fett less of a villain and more of a anti-hero. You know, like, he learned his lessons and he's less of a villain and more of an anti-hero, which I don't know if that completely worked, although he did have some badass moments. So the show overall was bad at its worst, uneven most of the time, but it did have some bright spots. I do think that some of the characters introduced were really good. Despite my complaints about Boba Fett and Fennec, they did have some badass moments. Obviously, I think I had a great finale, which is ironic because the finale was the level that you thought the whole show would have been, but I digress. Mando shows up, all these things, the actual main story gets pushed a bit forward. So in the end of the day, I still enjoyed Book of Boba Fett, but was it disappointing? It was very disappointing. Coming in at number 4 would be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi is like the Book of Boba Fett. It did not live up to the hype that you would have expected it to. Ewan McGregor gave an amazing performance. He was great once again in something that, even though he was in something that didn't like live up, the material he had wasn't as great as you'd hope. He was great. Uncle Owen was great. Like I said, and Darth Vader was amazing in this. It was some of the best Darth Vader stuff ever put to screen. And the finale was amazing. The action sequence between him and Darth Vader was stunning. It was everything I wanted from that kind of a conflict. But it was also muddled by, it had a very muddy, very messy middle, because this show had a great beginning and a great end, but the middle was muddy. There was a character in there who was an Inquisitor, she had a great story, but they didn't really give much to it. It was one of those things where I think the show needed more time. It needed more time to really develop some of those plots that they were trying to do, and they just ended up being muddy. And not only that, but her acting, her delivery, I don't even think it was her. I think it was like what she was given wasn't as great as you would have hoped it would have been. So at the end of the day, Obi-Wan ended up being a disappointment, but it was still very enjoyable, and I don't think, and it's not as big of a disappointment as Book of Boba Fett. It's still good. It's just we were expecting something to rival, The Mandalorian, and to rival the movies, and what we got was something akin to something that could have been shorter, and or it could have been longer. We don't know, but it wasn't as satisfying as we hoped it was going to be. Coming in at number 3 would be Star Wars Visions. It's the thing that no one really talks about, which I love this thing. Visions was like Star Wars working with all these different animation studios to let these animation studios have their own twist on the Star Wars lore, and they were doing these little mini, it was like an anthology, and I loved it. All of them were so unique and so different. Some of them were so good that I found myself wishing I was watching an entire series of this particular chunk of it. And seeing some of those cool different animation styles with Star Wars, seeing their approach, it was very fun to watch. That entire thing, every individual one of them was so different and unique. It was such a cool thing to do with the Star Wars, license. And it's one of those things where you want to see more of that. I would love to see Marvel allow one of the bigger studios, one of the bigger up-and-coming studios, to make an anime about one of their characters. I would love to see them do that. And Visions was a real fun thing. Honestly, I got no negatives about that one, but obviously it's these animated shorts, so it's I can't praise it but so high. But if you haven't seen Star Wars Visions, I would check it out, especially if you're into anime and you're into Star Wars. It's a beautiful mixture, unexpected sometimes mixture, and the imagination of how anime can be. Now imagine them getting their hands on a Star Wars IP and you get some amazing things. I'm talking, some dude had an umbrella lightsaber. It was like a lightsaber and it spun around like a fucking umbrella. I was like, what the fuck? There are some ideas out there that are fucking nuts. But I digress. Had a great time with it. Thought Visions was great. Coming in at number 2, and this is one where I'm going to get the slack, I got to go with Andor. Andor is amazing. It is a complete different tone to Star Wars. It's in my opinion, the second best thing second best thing Disney has made with the Star Wars IP since they have gotten it, outside of maybe Rogue One as well, and the thing in front of it. But, like I said, it's intense, it's so direct, it's so grounded that sometimes you forget you're watching a Star Wars movie. It has a prestige to it in terms of the level of acting and the way it is written. It is written more like a spy movie or a thriller. It's written like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a classic caper. You know what I mean? It's written like you would think this would be like a Jason Bourne movie or something. It's written cleverly. It's written with heart. It's written like a war movie in many ways. It's written like this war movie / spy movie. I've always equated the show to this show that used to be on AMC called Turned, which was about Washington spies, and George Washington had spies in Britain, and it's kind of like that, or the FX show The Americans, which ironically they had directors from The Americans working on this too. So it's got that vibe to it, that paranoid vibe to it, and also there's this bit of rebellious vibe to it, and I love that about the show. It's a great show. My only issues with the show is that it's breaking new ground for Star Wars, and I understand that, but I have an identity with Star Wars is being these big adventures, is being these huge, larger than life adventures. For better or worse, that's my view of Star Wars. And while I appreciate the new thing this show is doing, Andor is doing, and I appreciate it, and I think they're doing a great job, and I'm 100% behind this show. I hope it gets an Emmy nomination. I will say, at times, it is slow. At times, it does feel like there is It does feel like between the character stuff, there's a lot of wheels spinning. You know, it just doesn't feel like Star Wars to me sometimes, for better or worse. You know what I mean? Like, it's like watching an MCU movie where not only are there no fights, but there's no superpowers. And it's like, okay, cool, but I'm gonna need some. But if you're not gonna have that, I'm gonna need something to happen. In so many episodes, I just made my video about last week's episode. So many episodes are just build up and nothing actually happening and just talking. And it's like, I'm cool with this, but I'm gonna need you guys to get to the punch eventually. And that's kind of what I feel when I'm watching Andor sometimes. I love it. I think it's a great show, but to me, sometimes it can be a bit boring. Whereas my number one show, number one project they've done so far, still number one with the bullet. You guys have to understand, I think this is the best show they've done on Disney Plus. That's more than Marvel, which is The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is everything special about Star Wars. It's everything special. Big monsters, badass characters, memorable moments, memorable action sequences, every individual episodes, and then it has this action adventure. It has this old school, like, I'm trying to think like I'm trying to think of like this old school episodic, almost cartoon like vibe to it, where every episode can be so individual because they have different directors working on it. So every episode can be so unique into themselves. You can have an episode where they're trapped and trying to escape giant spiders, an episode where he finds the Mandalorians and they have to steal something. Like, every episode is so unique and you don't quite know what's gonna happen, and it's just so exciting, dude. It's so exciting. Mando is awesome. He's a bad motherfucker. They introduced so many new characters, Boba Fett, all these things, and they expanded the Star Wars world. The Mandalorian makes me happy to be a Star Wars fan. It really does, because it has that old school vibe to it. It's like, it's an old school vibe with new school technology, because it feels like it fits with the original trilogy. The Mandalorian is number one with the bullet, is the clear and honest, in my opinion, best thing they've done. I mean, every week there is something to see. There is something to see. There is something going down. There's an awesome character and an awesome cameo, or Mando's doing something badass. It is every single week there is something exciting to see and talk about. And it just, like, it's buzzworthy. Like, I remember, like, every time Mando came out, I remember I go to work early as fuck. But when Mando comes out, I wake up an hour earlier than I'm supposed to be up just to watch it before I go to work. That's how much I enjoy Mando. And like sometimes other shows I might forget. I can't tell you how many times I forgot Andor was out until I saw somebody talking about it. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I need to go watch it. I never forget to watch Mando. 2-time best drama nominee Mandalorian. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. What is your list of the top 5 Star Wars projects on Disney Plus? Let me know below. Comment. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. See you guys.